and welcome to How to Deal When the Shit Gets Real podcast. I'm Rietta, and today I am here with Nicki. So, Nicki, how do you deal when the shit gets real? Or just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here. I'm Nicki. I'm the founder of Yogi Mum, which is an online support business for parents who are experiencing self-harm with their teenagers. So it's born out of my own experience. So in terms of when the shit gets real, that was a real kind of big experience that my daughter and I went through about 4 years ago now. And I'm sure we'll get to talk a little bit more about that as we go on. So I'll keep it brief. But Yogi Mum was only born this year, so very, very new and in its infancy, but on a bit of a mission to kind of get the word out there and really help support parents when they're going through a really tough time.
Well, congratulations, first of all, on your business. And where does the name Yogi Mom come from?
That's a really good question because everyone thinks when I say Yogi Mum that I do yoga. And I've just come back from Bali, funnily enough, and I've got my yoga certification. However, it's not about yoga. Yogi, the actual definition of yogi, is an enlightened spiritual being full of wisdom. So I liked that name because of the experience that I went through and now the wisdom that I want to share with other parents. Because at the time that I was faced with that situation, there was no help, no support for me as a parent. And I did everything wrong before I learned what I needed to do to really, really help. So yogi is really about that enlightenment that I've gone through that I now want to share with other parents.
I love it. I think it sounds very warm and inviting, the name Yogi Mom. It gives you like that warm, tingly feeling. And I also love that you are totally honest, that you're like, I made all the mistakes first before I figured it out. So that's very brave of you.
100%. And that's kind of the ethos behind the work that I offer. It's not for everybody because not everybody wants to take a step back and look at their own shit, speaking really frankly. But I just woke up one day and I thought, if I do not change the way that I'm interacting with my daughter, the way that I'm behaving, I could potentially lose this child. So it was a huge wake-up call for me. And, I can now say, because she's well and she's been clean for over 2 years now, I can say that it was actually a huge gift. I wouldn't have said that at the time. And I don't want to trigger people that are listening to this to say, what? But it was a huge wake-up call for me to look at the way I was parenting and my automatic behavioral patterns that we all pick up from our own parents and just society at the moment, because it's so stressful, it's so fast-paced that we're always in this kind of high stress reactive mode. And I really had to dig deep and do the hard yards in terms of looking at where I needed to show up differently for her.
Well, good for you and being able to do that. It's, like you said, it's not easy. A lot of us don't want to, as they say, pull up the rug and, look under the carpet, because it's not fun.
It's not pretty. No.
It is not. So how did you first find out that your daughter was in this self-harming state?
Yeah, so it was, funnily enough, coming up to the anniversary. It was 4 years ago. We just had Christmas and it was during the pandemic. So her father lives in Dubai. She was off school because schools had closed. So she actually flew back to Dubai with him after Christmas. Obviously, Dubai is a hot country. She was wearing shorts and she was wearing T-shirts, and he saw the marks on her body. So it was that conversation that then alerted me to the fact that there was something seriously wrong with my child and she was in a lot of distress and pain. And when she came back, we obviously talked about it, but unfortunately it got a lot worse before it got better. And it probably went on, I think, for around 18 months. So it was a long time.
Oh, yeah. That's a long time, and that had to be really rough on both you and her.
Mm-hmm. It was a very dark time. She was very anxious. She was depressed. And I think the kind of the real memory that sticks in my mind, we had to go to hospital, to A&E, to the emergency unit, because she had self-harmed so badly the night before. And the nurse was just wonderful with her. She was so sensitive, very, very gentle. But I had to sit there as she peeled off her clothes, and I could see the extent of the damage that she'd done to herself. And that was the moment when I really just, there was a light that just went on that says, I'm going to lose this girl unless I radically do something different here, because this is not getting any better.
I bet that was a very scary moment for you.
It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And I think this is part of the reason why I'm on such a mission, Rietta, because I was met with, as a parent, I was met with a lot of judgment. There was an awful lot of shame and embarrassment, because it was almost as though, what have I done wrong to cause this? And whilst I may have played a part, there were so many other things going on in the background with my daughter that we have since spoken about. But the help and the support was just not there for me. And I was kind of left a little bit lost, reeling, just not sure. How do you deal with this? You know, you're never taught this in parenting classes. How do you actually respond to a child that is in so much distress? And how do you know that what you're doing is actually helping versus making it worse? So that's kind of the drive behind what I'm trying to do, is to help parents and let them know that there is someone here who gets it. I've been through it, totally understand all the feelings that you're going through right now, but there is hope. You will get through it. You know, and I can almost shortcut with the things that I did wrong, so don't repeat those, and move to the things that I did that really helped. And that's what I want to share.
Yeah. I mean, those are it's terrible that you had to go through that to get to where you are, but now you do get to share it with other people, which is good.
Yeah.
So, what did you do wrong that you think other people should know?
So, yeah, I think the biggest thing was that I thought it was my problem to fix. And I was throwing everything. I was putting my daughter under a lot of pressure without realizing it. You know, I was taking her to counselors and therapists, none of which she wanted to go to. She didn't have the words to be able to explain what was going on for her inside. So they were pretty much ineffective. But I felt like we had to throw everything at this problem to get it fixed. What I didn't realize was that the self-harm, the superficial, external, was not the problem. My child was in deep, deep distress. There was a lot of trauma going on underneath. And it took me a while for that penny to drop. And when I say it now, I kind of, it almost doesn't feel real, because it seems so obvious now. But at the time, I was highly reactive. I was really stressed. I was terrified that I was going to lose her. So I was just doing everything that I could, but chasing my tail and heaping all of this stress and pressure onto her when she was already in such a dark place. She just didn't need that. So it took me a while. And there was a lot of resistance with her. You know, she was fighting me all the way. But again, me being the parent, I was thinking I know best, which actually I didn't. And I should have listened to her a lot earlier than I did.
Yeah. How old was she?
She was 13.
Ooh, that hits home.
Tricky age.
It is a tricky. I have a 12-year-old. So,
Yeah.
at such a sensitive age, their bodies are changing, their hormones are changing.
Absolutely. They're going through so much anyway. And, you know, it's that natural time where the parent and the child normally clash. So, you know, all of that was naturally there, but then it was just exacerbated by this other thing that was going on. So yeah, it was not pretty to start with.
Yeah. How did you finally able to like pull yourself away and kind of sit back and kind of let her do what she needed? Because I'm sure that was really hard.
I I just got to the point where I realized everything I was doing was not helping. We were not getting anywhere. She was still self-harming, and it was almost becoming worse. That, you know, it was becoming far more visceral to look at than it was when it started. And I just had a realization that, look, I need to change. I need to do a bit of a pivot here, because this is not helping. Whatever I'm doing is not helping. And actually, she is going to continue to do this until she decides not to. It was not my problem to fix. I could just show up differently for her and give her the love and the space and the support in the background to let her know that she was safe, she was loved, and that I was there for her. And I loved her no matter what was going on, whether she was self-harming or not. And prior to that, I think there was a lot of conditional messaging. Oh, well, if you stop, then we can do this. If you stop, then we can get a puppy. I mean, again, it just sounds insane when I say it now, but it was born out of frustration and desperation to just get her to stop. And I really had to dig deep and just remove myself, which felt completely alien to me, because I'm like, I'm her mum. That's my job. But actually, what she really needed was the space to breathe. She needed to be able to come home and decompress from a very, very, at the time, she found school very stressful. There was a lot of anxiety around school. So the last thing she needed when she came home was to have someone else on her case, making her feel even worse than she already felt. And so it was just a very gradual kind of stepping back, but at the same time, always letting her know, look, I'm here, but I respect you need space. I respect that, you know what's going on here. You're the only person that can kind of communicate and tell me what you need. I can't second guess it, because everything I've tried to do so far has not helped. And I started to really do the work on myself. I started to look at my behaviours and my patterns. I went all the way back to my childhood. I looked at the way I was parented, and I saw the repeat patterns that were happening with the way I was parenting her, you know, and I had not been parented particularly well. So there was a whole heap of self-discovery and a learning journey that I went on, and a lot of healing for myself, which just changed the dynamic. It changed the energy in the house. It changed the interactions that we had. And I would always try and meet her with love, rather than, I think I was meeting her before with, have you stopped? You know, have you stopped yet? What's going on? And it was just that constant pressure. So I just had to learn to soften that and let that go.
So do you believe that that was the pivotal moment on your healing journey, or was there another moment that was really the pivotal moment as you
The
guys
pivotal
switched?
moment was sitting in that A&E ward, when I just looked at my beautiful daughter's body and what she'd done to it, and it was so distressing. And I don't think, as a parent, you know, you just can't really prepare yourself for something like that. And that was the point where I just it was like a light switch. Something has to change, and I cannot control what's going on there. The only thing I control is myself and my reactions, and that's where I put the focus.
What kind of healing did you do for yourself? Did you do therapy? Did you do meditation? Like, what did you do for yourself?
Lots of different things. So yoga was a huge part for me, which is why I've just been and got my certification. It was about finding practices that helped me ground, get out of my head, get into the present moment. Because when you're in that situation, you're never in the present. You're either in the future thinking the worst thing and terrifying yourself, or you're in the past reliving what happened yesterday and not wanting that to happen again. So it was finding practices that helped me center, ground, And that was kind of the pattern that I needed to introduce into my life daily. So it was breath work, it was yoga, it was walking in nature, it was taking myself out of the home, again, to give her the space to breathe while I wasn't there. And just giving us that distance to cool everything down and just let things settle. In terms of therapy, there were lots of different things. There was EFT, there was breath work again with a specialised facilitator. There was access consciousness, which is, again, it's all about energy and it's clearing those patterns. Ancestral clearing. So again, just recognising that we subconsciously, we almost come into this life with a whole heap of subconscious patterning from our fathers, our mothers, and their fathers and mothers. So it was looking at that stuff as well and clearing really, really deep stuff out. But the main thing was just focusing on being happy, which sounds bizarre, but I had to show her that change was possible. I had to show her that we would get through this. And I had to show her that, look, if I can change, you can choose something different here. This is not the only path for you. There is a way through. And I'm here kind of championing you in the background. So that was my driver to do the work, was to show her that, look, this is not it. There is another alternative choice. There is another possibility that we can look at here.
I love that. That's it's a beautiful reminder, because we all get, a lot of us, I think, get stuck in our heads into that chaotic of what can I do? How can I fix this? Where am I going? And it's just, you get lost in there sometimes.
You absolutely do. And the practices that I do, and I still do today, they're very much about dropping out of here and coming into the heart space, because actually, when you take the time to listen and be quiet, you've got all the answers. You know what to do. And in those situations, when you're in your head, your mind is not your friend. And it will tell you all the worst case scenarios, and it will give you all the most reactive behaviors. And that energy is not helpful to a child that is already, very, very heightened. They need calm, they need space, they need to be able to breathe. So the only way that you can bring that into your house and into your environment is to do that for yourself first. I learned about co-regulation through the breath work that I do. And that is it's magic. If you can regulate yourself, just being with your child, you don't have to say a word, just being with them, they will start to regulate their own nervous system. So it just brings everything down and it calms everyone in the home. And that's the kind of environment that you want to strive for when you've got a child that is in that state.
I mean, it makes sense, but like you already mentioned, it's easier to say it now when you're on the other side of it than when you were in the thick of it.
100%. And you know what? It's really difficult. I was reminded of this earlier. It's very easy for me to sit here now and say all of these things. And you're right, at the time, it was hard. It was tough. When you're trying to constantly let your child know how much they're loved, when they don't even want to sit in the same room as you, when they just want to be in their room, when they don't want to interact, when they don't want to even look at you some days, that is hard because it feels like a personal rejection. And those are the times when you really have to dig deep and realize this is not about me. This is about what's going on in her inner world, and how can I show up to let her know that she's safe, to let her know that she will get through this and that I'm here for her. So it's almost reversing those automatic default responses that we all have, we're all pre-programmed with. And again, coming back into the heart, what would the heart do here? What would the heart say about this situation? How can I show up with love when it's a very, very fraught, heightened, emotional environment that you're walking into? You have to be that role model for them because they don't know how to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's really our whole job as parents, right? Is to try to be the best role model we can. And we do the best we can.
We do the best we can with the resources we have at the time, 100%. And I think that's really important as well. If I can just touch on that, it's the work that I want to share is never delivered with any judgment, because I've been there. You know, I as I've said, I did everything wrong. We are always doing the best we can with the information that we have at the time. So the work that I want to share is just to show parents that there is another way, and that I can help you with sharing different information to allow you to step out of that fear, the mind kind of fear-based narrative that you're probably just running 24/7 when you're faced with that situation, to really just step away from that and to soften and to treat yourself, number one, with love and compassion, because it is such a hard thing to face as a parent. And there's so many emotions that you will be experiencing: guilt, fear, to name the kind of top two that I went through. So yeah, it's never ever about blame or judgment or, I can't believe you said that to your child, because I've done it. I've been there. I've said all the things. I've done all the things. And that was my learning curve. It was a hard lesson to learn, but we did it. We got through it, and we're out the other side, and we have a great relationship now. So I just want to be that beacon of light, I think, that I never had when I was in the thick of it.
And I know you mentioned, like, she needed space. That was kind of like the main thing. Was there anything else that you did right that really helped her? Or was it just really just giving her that time to process?
I think, honestly, for fear of repetition, it was just letting her know that she was loved, that I accepted her no matter what was going on. There were so many times I remember reinforcing that message over and over and over. And she would cry because the relief that, when people are self-harming, they already feel that they are disappointing and letting down their family. So internally, they're already feeling that they're failing. So as a parent, you've got to try and remember that and not put any more pressure on top of that, because they're already beating themselves up enough. So to be able to sit there and look her in the eyes and tell her how much she's loved and how safe she is and how much she's accepted, whether she's still self-harming or not, the relief that I saw in her when I would deliver that message, I think was probably the biggest help in terms of her choosing to heal, to stop, because she realized that I've got her back. I'm here for her no matter what. And I think that reinforcement, because it had to be reinforced a lot, and especially in the early days, I think that is key for any parent that's going through this at the moment.
I mean, when it really comes down to us, all of us just want to be loved.
Exactly. And I think sometimes we, as parents, again, if I think about where I was with her before I turned it around, I was working full time. I was a single parent. We don't have the time really to connect with our kids. We don't have that quality time very often. Other things take priority. We're trying to run full-time jobs. We're trying to run households. And when you see your child seemingly getting on with it, seemingly being okay, I think you sometimes forget to remind them just how special they are to you, just how loved they are. And if I had my time all over again, I would do things very differently. But again, with no judgment and with compassion, you do the best that you can at the time. And so I think, as you said, we all just do want to be loved. And I think we can probably say that a lot more to our kids, rather than just thinking that they already know it, and that it's kind of almost an assumption that, because you have no idea what's going on in a teenager's head. I mean, it's all over the place, all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And you've already given a lot of beautiful advice, but is there anything additional that you would tell to parents who currently have a child who is self-harming?
I think number one, make sure you've got all of the usual support in place for your child. So whether that is your GP, whether that's the local hospital, the teachers at the school that your child is at, make sure that the right people are aware and informed so that they can keep your child safe when your child is not with you. That's the practical stuff. So make sure that all the practical stuff is obviously in place. And then number two, make sure that you've got the support that you need, because it is a roller coaster of a journey. And there will be days when you think, I cannot take this anymore. When will this end? And you don't know the answer to that question. It could last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. You just don't know. And you have to be prepared to go the long haul with this. So make sure you've got a really, really strong support network around you, whatever that looks like, whether that is friends, whether that's a spouse, whether that is a professional therapist. You just need to look after yourself, because you have to, as cheesy as this sounds, you have to fill your own cup first, because what you are being asked of is huge. You know, to parent any child is huge. It's a huge kind of expense of energy if you're doing a good job. But to add a mental health kind of situation on top of that, it takes enormous amounts of energy, patience, tolerance, love. So make sure that you're doing those things that replenish you, that restore that in you, so that you can then give that to your child.
Beautiful. I love it. I mean, I think we do, in general, forget to take care of ourselves a lot. So it's even more important when you're in a situation like you were.
It is, because when you're stressed, when you're tired, that unfortunately leaks. You know, you can't help it, but it leaks onto your child. And as I said earlier, your child is already feeling like they've let you down. So they don't need any more of that kind of energy on top of their shoulders, because it actually keeps them in this loop. Because if you're reacting to the self-harm or whatever the behavior is, whether it's anorexia, bulimia, there's so many kind of mental health issues out there at the moment for our young kids. When you are heaping that kind of energy on, and you don't even need to speak, they know, they can see it in your face. They know when they have disappointed you, or, you know, whatever the scenario might be. That ultimately drives them to do the behavior that they're already doing even more, because they feel so low and so bad about what they're doing, that the only escape and the only release that they have in that moment is to go and self-harm, or whatever the other outlet might be. So it's so important that you really try and look after yourself, so that you can maintain that balance and that equilibrium for them as much as for yourself.
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably at times felt really like isolated and like you were losing this giant uphill battle trying to run up that slippery, muddy hill. So, how did you battle those feelings of like isolation? And what advice would you give to somebody else that maybe feels like that?
I was very lucky that I had an incredible partner who is now my husband. So he was my shoulder to cry on. And I would say to any parent, you need that. Whether that is a partner or a friend or a therapist, you need to have an outlet, because the emotions that you will experience can be really intense. And, you know, there was a time when I remember saying to him, I have to make peace with the fact that I might lose my child. I have to accept that that is a possibility. And that comes with clearly huge emotional implications behind it. So you, if you're feeling isolated and you don't have that immediate support network around you, please find someone professionally trained to help you, because you cannot show up for your child in the way that they need if you don't have someone that's there for you, to be able to bring you back down to that calm, grounded place. Put the practices in place, whatever that might be for you: yoga, meditation, walking, whatever that practice is that gets you out of here and into your body. please just do it more, because you are being tested to the limit in these kind of situations. And if you want to show your child that change is possible and that they can heal from this, you have to be that walking, talking example of how you're changing and how you're moving from reacting to actually responding, because they're very, very different energies. A great question I used to ask myself before I ever walked into a room with my child: what energy am I being right now? What energy am I taking into that conversation? And I always tried to make sure that it was loving, gentle, compassionate, calm, because she needed to be treated with such sensitivity at that time. And that is very difficult to do if you're stressed. So those practices are so important, so important.
Yeah, I think I was trying to think of myself, and I feel why I feel like I would relate to why you felt like you did the wrong things, because we just wanna make it better, right? We just wanna
Yeah,
make it better, whatever that may look at. But
yeah,
telling them to stop is not it's like trying to tell a train to stop. Like, it's not gonna happen.
exactly. And it's seeing past the behavior. That behavior is surface level. It's seeing
Mhm.
past that and really having compassion for what is going on underneath. Where is this pain? Why is she in so much pain that she's feeling the need to do this? And that's the question you want to ask, because it's not about the surface level stuff. That's just her showing that she is deeply, deeply unhappy. So
Mhm.
it's about trying to get to that place of compassion quickly, because when you're initially faced with it, you will go through anger. And again, when I say these words out loud, it sounds quite surreal, but it's you feel angry. There's all of the narratives around, oh, they're just trying to get attention. Oh, she's only doing it because her friends are doing it. Oh, it's just her age, she'll grow out of it. And these things are very naive. If we really, really buy into those beliefs, they're so naive, and they're not looking at the trauma and the pain that's underneath, that's being expressed by the self-harm. So yeah, it's about really stepping back and trying to develop that compassion inside before you interact with your child. And if you meet them with compassion and love, you're not going to go far wrong.
I think the world would be a better place if we met a lot of things with compassion and love.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to get out of here.
Mhm. So how did you turn that beautiful compassion and love into this journey and this mission and your new beautiful company of Yogi Mom?
I think, as I said before, when I went through it, there was nothing there for me, nothing. And it was almost like, just get on with it. Just get on with it. We did the things that I've mentioned in terms of making sure that the school and the GP and the hospitals were all alerted, and the mental health services, but even the support for her was not great. I have to be really honest. So it's just born out of the fact that this is a problem that is not going away. I think the stats I looked at last week, I think it's one in every 5 teenagers will try self-harm at some point.
Oh
Whether
my
they
goodness.
go on to repeat, is a different statistic, but still, that's a huge number.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a pandemic here in the UK. I don't know about in the US. Unfortunately, social media glamorizes it. There are videos on TikTok showing teenagers how to cut.
Oh my
There are
goodness.
suicide ideation video. I mean, it's just so dark.
Oh
So
my
I
goodness.
think we need to start talking about it, because it is shrouded in so much shame and secrecy that unless we start talking about it, nothing will change, and it will stay
Mhm.
behind closed doors. Um, and I think that's why I'm on this journey, because I have come out the other side. We've come out the other side much stronger, and it's about sharing that story of hope. I wish I'd had that something to aim for when I was in the middle of it with her, to just really solidify my own hope inside that we will get there one day. We will get through this. It will be okay, because you just don't know. You have no idea how long it's going to last for. So I just want to share that with people and let them know that there's someone here who gets it. They've worn the t-shirt, you know, they've been there. And it's just meeting parents with compassion and kindness and showing them the things that I did that really helped, to take them on that journey to try and you know, reinforce those more positive, supportive behaviors for their child.
And what a beautiful thing for you to do and help other people, because I agree with you. It makes a big difference when you can see kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, even if it may be really
Yeah.
far away. Just
Yeah.
anything that you can hold on to be like, okay, there is hope.
Exactly. You know, it is an incredibly dark time to go through as a family, and yeah, I just think it needs to be talked about, because especially, you know, you come up to holidays like this, like Christmas, when your child is at home all the time and they're not at school, it's even more intense. It's even more heightened for everybody in the home. So it's just so important that we learn how to create that harmony and create that safe space in the home environment, so that they feel that they are completely loved and accepted, and that you've just got them, you've got their backs, and you're there for them, no matter what's going on and no matter how long it's going to go on for.
Yeah. And for anybody that wants to connect with you or work with you, how can they do so?
So I'm on all the usual social channels, yogimum.com, also on YouTube. So yeah, just LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I've got free resources as well as the paid course that I'm developing. And I share lots of information on the socials. So that's probably the easiest way, to just link in there.
Wonderful. I love it. And tell your daughter that we're still rooting for her and that we're sending all the love
Thank
her
you.
way, and that
Thank you. Thank you.
hope that her beautiful journey continues wherever it may take her.
Yeah, and you know what? We've spoken about this as well, and she wants to be a teacher, so she's studying her A
Oh,
levels at the moment. And I just think, again, as it was a wake up call for me, I think the experience she's been through, she will be able to help so many children when she gets to that point in her life. So, you know, it sounds a bold thing to say, but there is a part of me that is very grateful for what we went through, because of the lessons and the closeness that we now have as a mother and daughter that we just didn't have before. So it's deepened that connection, it's deepened that relationship, and it's changed both of us in ways that are for the better. So yeah, there's always a silver lining.
there is. And I'm sure that is very hard to say, because of course you never wanted your daughter to go through that. But
Absolutely
what you
not.
received on the back end is a gift.
Exactly. Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I can say that now because we are out the other side. And again, I get, for parents who are in the middle of it, that might be quite a triggering thing to hear, but it's true. It's true for me anyway, that we're in a good place. We're in a much, much, much better place now, which brings me huge, huge joy.
I mean, that's all we want in life, like you said,
That's
is
all you
joy.
want for your children, right? Just want them to be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any final words of advice, love, whatever you'd like to share with my listeners?
I just think, I've said it already, I've said it several times, just please look after yourselves. Just do whatever you need to do to really nourish yourself. Because if you're in this situation, there's a lot that you need to give out. So look after yourselves, especially after Christmas. You know, through Christmas, it's a crazy intense time. Well, it is here anyway in the UK. You know, everybody goes a little bit crazy. So just look after yourselves. Look after yourselves.
Thank you so, so much for being here, Nicki, and sharing your very
Thank you.
raw and deep story with me.
Thank you so much, Rietta. It's my pleasure. And thank you for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And this is how to deal when the shit gets real, guys. I'll see you all next episode.